everybody, and welcome to this month's audition of the Social Wave Project podcast. My name is Sarah Francis, but everyone calls me Sez, and I upload monthly podcasts talking about topics with various guests. Yay! I definitely think we've got this one as a proper intro. Woo! Oh, but yeah, it's definitely really a really good thing to start. Short and sweet, but yes. So in this month's edition of the Social Wave Project podcast, we are going over from the autism community to the autism community and literature, because in the UK there's a special event coming up called the Summer Reading Challenge, which encourages children from the ages of 3 to 4 to 11 years old to read books during the summer holidays once they get off from school. And in this year's topic for the Summer Reading Challenge, it is supported by the WWF, or Worldwide Wildlife Foundation, and I hope I got this right, but I don't really know, but I am hoping I did. And the topic this year with the WWF is Wild World Heroes. But we are focusing something that is a bit wild today, because we are not focusing above in rainforests or in Sahara deserts, but we are focusing under the sea, but not like a Little Mermaid under the sea. As for this year's edition of the Summer Reading Challenge on the podcast, I'm going to be talking with Amy Le Dain, and I hope I got your surname right, Amy. If I don't, I do apologize. And Amy has written a series of books which are based on 3 sea creatures that focus on autism awareness and connections to autism for children and adults of all ages. So before I move on to Amy's interview, I will take some time to explain a little bit about the Summer Reading Challenge. Although I was part of the library, my local library, to volunteer, I have had experiences with the Summer Reading Challenges before, which I have mentioned in the podcast, but I probably will explain that as the interview goes along ahead. If you'd like to know more about the Summer Reading Challenge, then the best thing to do is to look on the Reading Agency website. And if you type on the website or in Google search for the Summer Reading Challenge, you will find everything you need to know about the Reading Challenge this year online. And if you would like to get involved, you can have a look with the links on the website, or if you would like to know some more information about it offline, please visit your local library for more information, and the librarians will be happy to help you out. Or if you would like to encourage children to read during the school holidays from advice from your school, then always talk to your teacher or your head teacher about it for more information. And then yes, I will leave it at that, and without further ado, I'll hand over to me and Amy to talk about 3 certain amazing friends, Ollie, Astrid and Finn. Amy, hello. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Too bad, thank you. I've got to say as well, definitely with the theme of today, I love your hair. It looks like you're Ariel from Little Mermaid.
I didn't actually put 2 and 2 together, actually. I'm actually going to go redder because it's kind of like coming out, so it's starting to turn orange. So my job after our conversation is to go and completely go even redder with the whole thing.
Nice. I definitely like that, really. And then Amy, I have mentioned in the beginning, but Amy is an author, and she's written a children's book for that, which is aimed at autistic children, called Ollie and Sea Friends. I know I got this, may get it wrong or get it right, but
very close. So we've got Ollie, Astrid, and Finn.
Ollie, Astrid and Finn, that's the one. I know that I was trying to keep up with like thing, because I'm normally unprepared, but I had like a sneaky look on your website, because I don't know if I could get a review on the book as well from the book on the other places as well as your website, but I looked at it and I thought it was really interesting. So I thought that for the Summer Reading Challenge, I thought it would be appropriate just to have a talk and sit down to tell about your book. So looking for like what the first question, how did Ollie, Astrid and Finn come about?
Okay, so they were actually really random. So The first character that came about was the octopus, which was Ollie. And I was literally, this is like the genuine story, I was literally just lying in bed and I kind of instantly already knew what he was going to say and his personality straight away. And then it just kind of developed from there, really.
Oh, that's amazing. And when did you first write the book? What was your intention when you first wrote it? Was it specifically aimed for autistic children, or was it just for any reading age?
Um, the principle of the book was always to be based around autism, but it was never fully intended just for autistic kids. It was intended for everybody. So I wanted to promote the understanding rather than more than anything. So it was like, when I was a kid, there wasn't a book like that that kind of explained, even like me as an autistic individual, that explained why I felt this way. And there was never a book that explained to anybody else why somebody else might feel a certain way. And I kind of wanted to be able to provide that in a sort of fun way rather than just reading, like, I think sometimes when it comes to like a diagnosis, it's so sometimes it can be so very black and white. So it's like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. But is it? Or is that just how you perceive it? There's always a positive to everything. So everything does have a positive, even if it is bad. So I believe in things happen for a reason. So even with everything in life, so like if something bad happens, it's happened for a reason. It's not because you're unlucky or anything like that. There is a reason behind it, and something else will occur after that will make you realize the reason for the first thing happening.
Oh, that's
If that makes
brilliant.
sense. I kind of rambled then.
No, it's perfectly fine because what you just said, really, it's very relatable, because I know that when you were diagnosed with autism before you wrote the book, was those the feelings of how you felt, and was that the ones that inspired you to write stories?
Yeah, so it was like for so long I felt different and I could never explain why. And I felt like I had no place, or there was like nowhere for me to go, oh, I relate to this, I relate to this. I felt like I kind of was in, loads of people probably relate to this, but I kind of felt like I was surrounded by people I completely didn't understand. Like it was just me. I felt like I was one person and everybody else was something different. And I was like, I don't get it.
Yeah, that's the thing though, because sometimes with the things that it's hard to understand, oh, how do I put this? It's kind of like it's difficult in a way, really. And I think life has a bit of challenges, really, doesn't it? And that's the thing about connections and writing. It's easy to explain things through like other different points of view as well, really. And this is how I imagine it in my mind. And I think, and I don't know if it might be true or not, but with those, um, how did you actually observe these thoughts and feelings into Ollie, Astrid, and Finn, which is the character that most autistic people can relate to a bit more?
Um, I can't really speak for anybody else because like everybody is different. From like a personal perspective, I'd say Ollie, just because especially in the first book, he's based more on my experience. So I kind of relate more to him because he is more based on my traits and my personality. So I think I do have a bit more of a connection with that character. But obviously with the second book, do you know much about the second book or?
No, I don't actually. You might have to tell everyone what the second book is.
Okay, so I did put it to hand. So the second book is this one.
Oh yeah, I've seen it on your website as well.
Yeah, so
This was the first thing like I first came across, really.
so, I shine differently. And this one is just obviously based on Astrid the Star, but because she's the only girl character, I wanted a book that, because so many girls are completely missed because of the way they mask. I wanted a book that would kind of focus a little bit more on that side of it, but I didn't want to take away from the other characters. So I thought if I did, like the first book was always, I wanted to cover the 3 different characters, and I wanted to show that it isn't always how this preconceived idea of what an autistic person is. Like every single character is different. So Ollie has like sensory aversions in terms of sound, whereas Astrid is completely the opposite and really likes pressure, and she's more of a sensory seeker rather than an avoider. And then I wanted to kind of talk about, like, just because I can talk doesn't mean that I'm not autistic. But Finn, on the other hand, struggles a bit more with the communication side of it.
Yeah, it sounds like it as well. Astrid, it's kind of like a good representation. Well, she is a good representation of girls, because listening to Astrid's story, it does feel like you got a strong connection to autism and girls. And when you actually published the second book, what feedback did you get from the parents? What did they have to say about it?
I've actually been like blown away by the feedback from both books, really. So like initially the idea was like, oh, we was in lockdown, I wanted to kind of make use of the time, and then obviously this character came to my head. I was like, oh, Amy, you can do something with this. You can help people with this. And that was always my goal after developing the characters. I was like, I can do something with this. I can, even if it just, I always say that even if it just helps one kid or even one adult, I know it's a kid's book, but just to help somebody maybe understand a little bit more, than I've already achieved what I wanted to set out to achieve. But I've had so many good so many good comments and feedback. Some people tell me that their favorite character is the turtle. Some people tell me that their favorite character, and I like that. It doesn't seem one-sided. So it's not, from, like I said before, a personal perspective, I relate more to the octopus, but I've had feedback where people seem to relate to the different characters, and that makes me happy, because that was the intention. I didn't want everybody to just relate to one character, because then that would alienate the other 2 characters. Even if it's a mixture of all of them, they seem to kind of relate to some part of it.
Yeah, that's definitely really true. And it's the same cases with other stuff, really, because what was it? What's another good example? Thomas the Tank Engine, because every time someone like reads a story, Thomas the Tank Engine is the first thing that pops into people's heads.
Yeah.
And it is like a good way to like describe all of that, because some people can represent the thoughts and feelings and differences in the ways of how people would see shapes on Thomas and his friends with facial expressions, and that helps them understand. But with Finn, Ollie, and Astrid, it's, from what the sound of it, it's kind of like differences, and rather than focusing on the things that people would think are the same.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of wanted to go for. And obviously the book does follow some traits that people would assume as autistic traits as well, but I didn't want it to be one character that stuck to the stereotypes of being an autistic character, because I don't think that it doesn't hold well, because so many times you see autistic characters portrayed in different ways on the media, and especially on like TV and stuff like that. If it's shown on TV, people seem to see that as one image. So, oh, that must be, and it kind of puts people into a box. So it's like, oh, I saw this character with this one character with autism. You can't be, because you're not this character. So that's why I went on 3 characters and showed them all in different lights, rather than just focus. That's why I wanted to start with a collective group of autistic characters, rather than just introducing one character, because then if I introduced one character just on its own, so if I was just to write the book for Ollie on his own straight away, that would perceive the premise that is a character, and I don't fit that character. So, oh, I can't be autistic because I don't fit what's in that book. Whereas I started it with 3 different ones that all experience it differently. I think it's more relatable to all the other autistic people that might not necessarily have this trait, but they have this trait, and so on.
Yes, that's a really good thing as well. And then especially with the summer reading challenge this year, because this year's theme, which is about wildlife, it's really good to touch on your book, because that counts as wildlife as well. And I've heard that a lot of autistic people, as well as trains, they like to see fish, and they like to visit aquariums. And I guess it's kind of like safe spaces, but it's other stuff that they can relate to, really. But then it's really interesting to think how everything like plays out, really, with all the characters that are included in literature. But this is like the thing, though, with the summer reading challenge. I always found, as used to be a volunteer librarian, there are times where autistic children are not included as well. But it might be like because there might be some books that might not be right for them, or they don't understand, or parents will be worried if they find it too difficult, or they get too judged, really. Or, well, parents might feel a bit judged because of the kids' abilities to read, really. And it shouldn't be like that.
Which is another reason for the next stage of the book that I'm doing as well, because obviously I wanted a book that, just because it's got an autistic character, it doesn't mean that only autistic people can read this book. I wanted like maybe an autistic kid to go, oh, I finally relate to a story. I read all these stories in school, I read all these stories at home, and I don't relate to one single character. I wanted them to finally sit there and go, do you know what? There is a character out there that is like me, and I relate to how they feel. And the sort of tagline for the whole series of books is sometimes everyday life is an adventure. And I didn't think I needed to overcomplicate it by them going on these huge, massive, like, fantasy adventures as such, when sometimes just going to school is hard. Sometimes just going to the shop is hard. Sometimes just meeting new people is hard. And I wanted to kind of cover the things that sometimes aren't seen as a good basis for a story to be covered before you start going on the adventures.
Then, this is a thing that I forgot to ask earlier, but who's your favorite character out of the three?
Oh, it's so hard. Like I said before, I think it'll always be Ollie, because he was the first character. Like, he was the one that propelled the idea in the first place. He's the one that got me out of bed to sit there at stupid time at night, sketching out a character, drawing him, writing down his personality on paper. So I'd say it has to be him, really. It has to be him.
Oh, that's really good, though. I mean, by the sound of it, really. And Ollie is like very relatable. But when I thought about it more, I kind of like relate to Astrid in a way as well, because there are so many topics right now that have been talked about on social media, but masking is one of them. And when you look at the characters, it's really relevant to the autism community.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously it's such a huge topic at the moment, because it is how obviously boys can mask as well, but it is such a big trait of autistic girls and women. That's why they're so overlooked. And that's why in the second book especially, one of the first things that I talk about is masking and trying to fit in, and kind of copying how to act in a certain situation, copying what to say, going, oh, they've said it this way, so I should probably say similar in that sort of way, because then I'll fit into the conversation. But at what point in the conversation do I say something? Because usually by the time I thought about what I wanted to say, they've already moved on, so my point is irrelevant. So
that's a really fantastic. And then what was also I was going to say, with the characters, what are you thinking for your next book, for your third book? Are you going to include a story for Finn, or are you going to create a whole new character entirely, or is it just top secret at the moment?
it's not top secret, because there's two books in the process at the moment. One of them's quite complicated, so it was going to be the second book that I released, but I kind of hit like a snag in the wall because it was going to be focused on Ollie and his sensory issues around food and trying new foods, because we all know that can be quite a tough challenge for some autistic individuals, and even individuals with sensory processing disorder, stuff like that. It can be quite a difficult thing, and I wanted to do a book that kind of encouraged children to eat along. So like the concept is, as it stands, like the character wants to try something new, but they need the kids' help to try something new, so they kind of eat it at the same time or try it at the same time. But also at the end, it sort of be like, if you didn't like it, that's also fine, but you tried it. The one thing I wanted, which I haven't kind of got around to how to making it to do it, is because of how I think I hit the snag. Like, if I was a kid reading that book, and if the character had tried a certain new food once and you'd done the whole process with them, and then your parent tried to use the book again, I'd go, you already ate that last time, so I'm not going to try anything new. So that was my issue. So I'm currently like in the process of like developing, or you can interchange the food, so maybe like a downloadable copy of different types of foods. So one day Ollie can try this type of food, and then you can pick what your child is kind of wanting to try, because as a kid I would be like, no, he already tried that, so that's not new for him, so I'm not going to do it again when I did it last week with him. So that was the snag I hit with that one.
Oh, that's brilliant, actually. I mean, that's very relatable for Ollie trying new foods, actually, because that really reminded of me, really, because being like, my mum is a nurse, she always gets to try me to try new things, like eat fruit and vegetables, even though there are some foods that people might find it, or even me, I find some foods oversensitive to eat, such as beetroot and butternut squash.
Yeah.
And it could be the same for any other like adult, kid, or teen, or if parents find it a bit tricky to try their kids to try to get their kids to try something new as well.
Yeah, I kind of, not, wouldn't want to, I don't want to call it a game. I kind of wanted it just to kind of create like an inclusive experience. So like it wasn't like, usually when kids are trying something new, there's so much focus on the kid trying something new, and I kind of wanted to take that focus away from just the kid, because that's probably going to add to the anxiety around trying the new food, because they're like, everybody's watching me, I need to eat this food. Whereas if there's another character doing it at the same time, then does that half the pressure of being looked at, going, actually the character's doing it too, so they're not all looking at me, they're seeing if the character can do it as well. And then I have one other book that's a bit further along, which I'm really excited about, but I've got so much on at the moment, I've kind of just delayed it a little bit.
Oh no, it's just like one of those things, really. Everything like has to be delayed sometimes, but then more creativity comes, really, and who knows, some things may happen.
Yeah, definitely in the next book there is another 2 characters which I'm excited to introduce, but I'm not saying anything else.
Oh damn.
There's another 2 characters.
I really cannot wait to see what they are, even though they're very top secret at the moment. But definitely, are they going to be like? Are you going to give us like a little sneak peek of them on in social media?
Probably, yeah. So they've both characters have been drawn up and stuff like that. But I've got a huge, like, not a huge event, like it makes me so sad, like an event next week with the first book. So I want to get all that out of the way, and then I can put all my energy into like the next book, rather than doing a half-hearted attempt at a series, because they mean too much to me to not put the 100% focus into each one. So I want to get this event done, and then I'll move on to the one.
Oh, and what event is that? Can you tell us?
Yeah, so I'm studying at college at the moment, so I'm studying sound engineering and audio production.
Wow.
And for my final major project, I have turned this one, the first one, into an audiobook and animation. So all the characters have voices now, and music and movement, which I've done, and I'm showing it in the theatre at my college next week. So it's going to be like quite sensory like experience. So there's going to be bubbles and like blue lighting, like ambient music, so like bubble sounds, like strings, and obviously the book.
Oh, wow, that's really amazing. I mean, as well, even though the podcast will be uploaded in July, because even though we're talking about it in May time, but I know you'll probably post a lot of it on social media and Instagram because you are very active on there.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I've got some, obviously, because not everybody can come to this event because obviously people live in different places. I am getting it filmed, so hopefully, maybe even probably before this podcast comes out, I'll be able to show what I'm trying to explain is going to be at the event. I'll be able to show that in a video.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing, really. It sounds very exciting of how everything's gonna go, really, because it is an opportunity, by the sounds of it, to get Ollie, Finn and Astrid just out there, not just to your college, but within the literacy community as well.
Yeah, so it's not even just closed college either, so like anybody can come and see it because it's in an area of the college that is open to like the community anyway, so anybody can come between the times and just go into the theatre and it'll be played like on a loop. Obviously I'll be there and stuff, and I can bring the characters to life a little bit more, hopefully.
Oh, that sounds absolutely amazing. And then moving on from that, looking back at the summer reading challenge again, what do you think, how would community libraries and local councils in the UK, how would you think they should include more autistic children to do a bit more reading? Or
I think
schools as well, sorry.
yeah, I think environment is such a huge hurdle. So like, yes, libraries are generally seen as quiet places, but like I wouldn't say consideration is taken to like lighting and stuff. Like, is there a specific quiet area where maybe kids on the spectrum or adults on the spectrum can go, choose a book, sit? I think that would encourage more footfall just in UK British libraries rather than people wanting to stay at home and read a book. Like, but obviously I understand that sometimes these things aren't possible to accommodate. That is absolutely fine as well. I just think it would maybe encourage more autistic kids to get involved in reading.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know what you said about how everything's set up. So in the UK with the summer reading challenge, because I volunteered for a few years before, and what they did, and even though I actually sat, I found out that the summer reading challenge was so pressuring to some children, and it was really pressuring for them because they get those little leaflets for them to write down what books they've read during the summer. But the most challenging thing is you have to sit down with a person who's a member of the library, and the librarian has to ask a few questions to the kid about the book that they read, like who's your favorite character, or what do you like about the book. And I always tend to find, looking back on it now and reflecting about it, it's just so pressuring, really. And I thought
It's
to
quite a
myself,
pressuring thing. Yeah, I don't know if it's the same as what I did as a kid. So we kind of had this like reading challenge over the summer, and you kind of go up these steps to, I don't know, like the end goal of how many books that you'd read or something. But you would only like achieve the certificate if you reached the end. And I think the pressure of that, it was, surely it should be like, oh, well done, you've read so many books. I don't think, oh, you should only get this certificate for
well,
reading so many, especially when people's reading ability is all different and people's reading pace is all different, uh, people's ability to concentrate for long periods of time is all different.
And then also with schools as well, because they have like a tie community to the libraries and from councils as well. And what I always tend to find is that at the end, a lot of the children have like certificates and gold medals if they can read like all of the 6 books that they've chosen. And what I tend to find is that they always get like certificates and medals, but normally they have like presentation ceremonies at the end, well, not at the end, at the beginning of each school term in the new year. And I can imagine really it is pressure in a way, because kids and parents, they can have different options. They can either be like, hold on to give them to the school so they can have them in assemblies, or they can have an award ceremony with their council, or basically they can just have the certificate and the medal from the librarian all together and they can hang on to it. It is like really pressuring in so many different ways, really. And I think you're not wrong there, Amy, because it is very excluding a little bit, really, and self-pressuring.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's a like things that things have to be properly equipped and properly changed, really, in like a few bits. But what would you like to see in the main future if schools and libraries were to include autistic children? What would you say that they have to focus on the most?
Enjoyment. I don't think reading should be about anything other than that. If you enjoy it, then it should be fine. I don't think it should come down to, obviously, in a school environment, I get that you need to be at a certain level of reading. I understand that, but especially when it comes to like a library, I think surely the main focus of every single book, whether it's like an encyclopedia, whether it's a picture book, whether it's a lower reading age, whether it's got no pictures, whether it's scientific, surely the main premise should be if the person's enjoying it.
I definitely agree. And then one final question, because I know we can go on about it forever, but I know that the last question, we'll probably finish with a fun one, because I know that I might do like 2 joint questions actually, because I'm probably gonna give like a little bit of like a division sort of question. That's how I see it in my mind, but I really don't know. I really can't think of the top of my head, really. But if you were to choose between reading at school or reading at home, which would you think would be best to read and why? And then what tips would you give for autistic parents, or parents with children with autism?
Is it, sorry, can I just like try and decipher what you mean by the question? So
Yeah.
do you mean like, would I prefer to read at home or would I prefer to read at school?
Yes.
Yeah. At home, because it takes away that pressure, like, and it's not even pressure that like the schools put on you sometimes. Like sometimes it's the pressure you put on yourself. So you see other kids so much further along in a book, especially because when I was in school, they used to all read the same book. So there's the pressure of, oh, they're so far ahead on the book. I couldn't concentrate on anything other than the fact that everybody else was ahead on what they were reading and I wasn't. And then because there's so much other stuff going on, so like there's so much sensory input from everywhere, I could never take in what I was reading anyway. So I could never focus long enough to go, could you tell me about that story? Well, not really, because I don't actually know what I've read. I've just read words because there's so much else going on. I would rather go home. I still do it now. So I do, I like play music and stuff like that. And I can read music, but I need to take it in myself. So if I'm like at a band practice, I'll go, they know me now, but I go, I'll take it home and look at it, because I can't for a second sit there and try and work it out with everything else that's going on in that environment at that one time.
But yeah, that's really, really good though. And then one big final question: what advice would you give to families who have children with autism or autistic individuals if they feel not comfortable or confident with reading?
It kind of covers what I said before. Like, I think confidence comes with enjoyment. So it's a bit like having like, sorry, there's thunder in the background. Did you hear
Oh
that?
no, it's okay. It's just like what happens really with the weather. You can't control
I was
that.
like, what is that? It's really loud. Um, so I think it just comes down to enjoyment. So um, it's the same as learning anything. So like if I've got a special interest, I want to know everything about it and I want to learn everything. And my knowledge of that will improve because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I think it's the same with reading. So if you can find a topic that your kid's really interested in, like have they got a special interest that you could maybe find a book that relates to that? Because I feel like with enjoyments comes the willingness to learn and the willingness to focus on what you're trying to read. It's like that's like because I would never sit there and read a book about, I don't know, something like what am I not interested in? Like I don't really know, but something like I would not sit there and spend the time reading that book. So my reading would not improve in any way because I'd avoid reading it. Whereas if it was based on a topic that, like Harry Potter, for example, I would sit there and read it. I'd be like, oh, my reading's getting so much better. I'd be wanting to learn to read, wanting to read about it because it fed my need for that specific knowledge that's specified. So yeah, my only advice would be try and find something that they enjoy, then the reading wouldn't seem like such of a task then.
Like rather than what you're saying is that it's reading shouldn't be a chore.
Yeah, basically. It was always a chore for me. Always.
Oh, I know that's the thing, really. I always felt like that as well, really, especially if you wanted to like, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? You need to improve your reading skills because you always feel pressured, really. You have to get up
You
on your
have to
reading
do
game.
this, you have to read this, and you have to do it by this time. No, here's a book that you want to read, that you're going to enjoy reading, that you're more likely to go, oh, I want to find another book that's a sort of a similar sort of theme or similar sort of um reading challenge, and then just like build on that every single time. So
I think I definitely agree with everything, really, because it should be more inclusive, really, with the reading and with Finn, Ollie, and Astrid. It's definitely a better way and a big move forward for all of this as well. So hopefully, in time, fingers crossed, that more inclusivity will be included with some reading. But Amy, thank you so much for coming in today. I
you're very
really do
welcome. Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. And I wish you all the best of luck with Ollie, Astrid, and Finn as well, and with your third book as well. But
Thank you very much.
you'll definitely have to give updates as well, and you'll have to let us know how the event goes before the podcast goes up as well. But yeah, that would be really really good. But yeah, and until then, everybody, I will see you for a new episode next month. And if you want to have a look at the summer reading challenge, there are links that I have mentioned to either check on your local community website or on the library website, or if you want to have any information about it, just go to your local school and talk about the summer reading challenge. And until then, we'll see you next month. Take care. Bye.
Bye.